When it came time to fighters, the Sega Saturn was a beast. SNK, Sega, and Capcom delivered the Saturn with some of the best fighters we had seen to date. Today, I want to more closely take a look at my top 5 fighters from this particular developer, as I consider them to be some of the best on the system. Just a little disclaimer before we go ahead and get started here. First of all, this is my list. You may agree, you may disagree, but the reality is this. Let's have a discussion about it in the comments below. Having said that, I also tried to group things together. So for example, you have Street Fighter 0, 1, 2, and 3. Only one of those would count towards the top 5, so I've tried to diversify a little bit by breaking things out by the respective series that they belong to. With these disclaimers out of the way, let's go ahead and kick things off. At number 5, we have Pocket Fighter. Pocket Fighter was released on September 4th in 1997, and it came out on both the Saturn and the PS1. In this game, Capcom has taken the chibi fighters out of the Super Puzzle Fighter game and put them back into an actual fighting game. The fighters are from Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter Alpha or Street Fighter 0, Darkstalkers, and Red Earth. The gems from Puzzle Fighter also make their return. The result is a fighting game that is fun, that is a fun derivative from many of the other Capcom fighters released during this generation. Gameplay has been simplified from the familiar 6-button fighting game control in favor of a 3-button system. 1 button punches, 1 kicks, and 1 does a special unblockable attack. The game's special moves are powered by the gems from the Puzzle Fighter, which fly everywhere once everyone gets hit. Special moves have 3 levels as well, depending on how many gems you have. For instance, a level 1 fireball will only hit once, but a level 3 fireball will hit 3 times and set your enemy on fire. Along with picking up gems, you can also pick up small globes. There are fire globes, ice globes, stone globes, and more. Tossing these globes at your opponents will either hurt or stun them, depending upon which the globes you have. The simplistic fighting style and gem collection mixes things up and makes it a whole new fresh take on the fighting genre. The graphics are really well done and the chibi characters look really good. I would absolutely recommend using the 4MB RAM cartridge if you have it, as it provides faster load times and enhanced graphics. The backgrounds are really nice as well, with animation and plenty of familiar characters from Capcom's universe. The music fits the game and is quite good overall. It consists mostly of remixes of existing tracks from other Capcom fighters. While receiving mixed reviews when the game came out, I think it's worth another look today. It's a lot of fun and something completely different. It offers a simplified fighting scheme and easier overall level of difficulty compared to some of the other Capcom games. Check it out. At number 4, we have Cyberbots. Cyberbots was released on March 28th, 1997, and came out on both the Saturn and the PS1 in Japan only. This one-of-a-kind fighting game we would never see today. Companies just don't seem willing to take the kind of risk it would take to make an original fighter with newly created characters anymore. The game feels like a mix of Transformers and Street Fighters, and while that sounds kind of strange, it's actually really a good thing. As previously mentioned, this game was released in Japan only, and never saw a release to Western audiences on either the Saturn or the PlayStation during that generation. It was later released on PSN in 2011. Unique to this game is the character selection process, which now has 2 steps. First you select your pilot, then you select your robot. Each pilot has his own storyline, which plays out over the course of the game. The initial 12 robots are varied, ranging from your basic mech to a many-legged crawling robot. As you might imagine, there is also a lot of hidden robots which you unlock throughout the game. Gameplay has been simplified from the familiar 6-button fighting game control in favor of a 4-button system. 2 buttons are for attacking, 1 allows your bot to dash and hover in midair, and the 4th fires your projectile weapon. There's also a bevy of special moves and power-ups such as dragon punches, fireballs, and hurricane kicks under new names. The graphics are really well done, and the mechs, characters, character art, and cutscenes are all quite impressive for the Saturn. I would recommend using the 4 meg RAM cartridge if you have it, as it provides faster load times and better graphics. The backgrounds are really nice as well and animate with plenty of detail. The music fits the game and is quite good overall. Overall, this is a fantastic game, and really a must-have for anyone who enjoys the Capcom fighters of this generation. So let's take a brief intermission as we work our way through the top 5 here. We've gotten through 5 and 4 on the list, and I just want to take a moment to say that, man, sorting out these top 3 is really difficult, and for whatever it's worth, you really can't go wrong with any of them. But what it came down to when I was sorting out the top 3 was, a matter of price. We are talking about the Sega Saturn here, and everything is very expensive, and just overall fun and what I'd like to see get brought back to the system. So with that said, let's get into the top 3 here. At number 3, we have Street Fighter 03. So, this game actually was never supposed to exist. Well, not on the Saturn at least. You see, the Saturn version of the game was actually canned by Capcom, and to everyone's dismay, they actually ended up releasing the game in 1999 after it was released for the Dreamcast. Yes, there was a Saturn game released after the Dreamcast version of the game was already released. This game is Japanese exclusive, and the port takes use of Sega's 4 megabyte cartridge, expanded RAM cartridge, which allows for more frames of animation, more sprites, and faster loading times than the PlayStation version, making it near arcade perfect and the best home console version of this particular game. There are 34 selectable characters encompassing everyone from Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 02. The game features World Tour, Survival, Dramatic Battle modes. The Dramatic Battle mode can be fought against the entire roster of characters, which is not the case in any other version of the game, which exclusively limits you to boss characters only. Additional changes to gameplay in this particular version of the game is the 3 isms, or different fighting styles that you can have. The X-ism is a simple style and makes your character behave like their Street Fighter 02 counterpart, if they have one. The Z-ism is the standard style and your character behaves like their Street Fighter 0 self. The V-ism is the variation style and your character has weaker attack power, and you can control the type of kick and punch your character sticks out by having the joystick forward, backward, or in neutral and pressing the attack button. As previously discussed, the overall graphics are excellent and some of the best looking 2D graphics I have seen on the system. The characters are large, you have smooth animation, everything is very vivid, and it looks much better than not only the PS1 version but the Dreamcast version as well. The music is good as well, but it's not overall great, I would say. While there are some catchy tracks, it does not live up to some of other Capcom's previous works. The control scheme from a control layout position is the same as all the other Street Fighter games, and something you're very familiar with their 6-button layout. overall, this is a fantastic game and really one of the best fighters on the Saturn. This game, for whatever it's worth, is extremely pricey and goes for over $300 on eBay. I would suggest that if you're not able to get it via other means, to go ahead and look into Street Fighter 02 or Street Fighter Zero. While not as good as this particular version, they still offer an awesome game. At number 2, we have X-Men vs. Street Fighter. The characters from X-Men and Street Fighter team up in a 2-on-2 tag team battle. The game was released in the arcades in 1996 and ported to both the Sega Saturn and the PS1, with the Sega Saturn release coming out on November 27th, 1997. The game was released in Europe and Japan only, and it requires the 4 MB RAM card. The Saturn version is revered as the best home console version of this game, as it is an arcade-perfect port of the game. X-Men vs. Street Fighter features a roster of 17 playable characters. The sprites for the X-Men characters were lifted from X-Men Children of the Atom, with the exception of Rogue, Gambit, and Sabretooth, who had not appeared in previous Capcom fighting games. The designs for the characters themselves are based on their appearances in the 1990 animated X-Men television series, complete with the original voice actors. The Street Fighter characters are reused from Street Fighter Alpha 2. The game uses the Capcom 6-button fighting layout we are all familiar with from other Capcom games. New to the game is the ability to tag your partner in and out of action. Special moves for all characters have been amplified. For example, Ryu's Fireball is now fills the entire screen. Overall, the gameplay is fast, frantic, and a heck of a lot of fun. From a graphic standpoint, the sprites and animation are top-notch. Every frame of animation has been duplicated from the arcade, and the backgrounds all look very good. The characters move well even when standing still. They breathe and flex realistically. Again, this is an arcade-perfect port. The sound is also really good. The music is mostly remixes of existing Street Fighter tunes, which is good, but also sticks out as an unoriginal facet of the game. Perhaps the question I will get now is why Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter is not in this game's place as number 2 on my list. The answer is pretty simple. One, it's a direct carbon copy of this game with just different characters, and the reality is I just like the X-Men better. They were always my favorite cartoon growing up, and since they were, they end up in this place at number 2 on my list.
Easy win.
At number 1, we have Vampire Savior. This is the third game in Capcom's Darkstalkers series. The game was released in the arcades in 1997 and ported to both the Sega Saturn and the PS1, with the Saturn release coming out on April 16th of 1998. The game was released on the Saturn in Japan only, and it requires the 4 MB expanded RAM cartridge. The Saturn version is the definitive home console version of this game, thanks to that 4 MB RAM card. Vampire Savior retains the character roster of Vampire Hunter, or as it's known in North America, Darkstalkers, the Night Warriors, omitting Donovan, Hunsel, and Pyron from the lineup. taking their place is 4 new characters: Jeddah, Lilith, QB, and BB Hood. Each of these new characters retains some of the wonkiness that is known in the Darkstalkers series. The gameplay was mixed up from Vampire Hunter as well. While it retains the same 6-button control scheme, it ditches the best 2 out of 3 round system. Instead, it uses the Killer Instinct approach, where each character has 2 life bars. When one is drained, the character falls down, the health bar refills, and the match goes on. Another new twist is how the super meter works. A new element is the Dark Force power-up, which takes 1 level of your super meter and transports the fighters into a new dimension. Each character is affected differently by the Dark Force. Some characters get armor, others get mirror images of themselves that double their attack power, and even more craziness that you just kind of got to play the game and see for yourself. The super meter can also be used to do super moves. There are 2 types of super moves: ES and EX moves. ES moves are powered up versions of their normal moves, like super fireballs, extra damage throws, and more. EX specials are an entirely different type of super move. For instance, Dimitri can turn his opponents into little girls, and yes, that includes the guys, pick them up by their neck and choke the blood out of them, while Lilith will toss a hat on her opponent, and if the hat hits, her enemy is forced to do a little dance while taking damage the entire time. The X moves are really cool and add an element to the fighting game that I have not seen before. They really go a long way to adding an exciting element to the game and are reminiscent to the first time you pulled off a fatality in Mortal Kombat. The graphics and animation in this game are outstanding. This is the second game to support the Sega Saturn 4MB RAM card, and the results are similar to those of the first, which coincidentally is the second game we talked about, XMen vs. Street Fighter. An arcade perfect translation with very little load time. So not surprisingly, all the graphics are near arcade perfect and the quality is incredible. All the backgrounds look great, and most of them are pretty well animated as well, which is a nice touch. There's a lot of frames of animation, and it's quite nice. The Saturn pulls them all off without a hitch in thanks to that 4MB RAM card. The sound is also really nice, as is the music. The speech isn't muffled at all, and the music fits the game very, very well. Overall, Vampire Savior is a lot of fun and a must-own for your collection. It's the best fighter that Capcom put out on the Sega Saturn, in my opinion. It's totally wonky and fun, and honestly, that's the way I like my fighters to be. I want them to be something different, and I want them to be fun. Here's a pro tip if you import this game. There is actually a way to unlock English for everything, so go ahead and see the description for some more details on how to do this. The game can be picked up on eBay for fairly inexpensive, and you can pick up the 4MB cart there as well. I'd highly, highly, highly recommend you picking up this awesome, awesome Capcom fighter. Well guys, that's it from me. How do you think we did here? Did I get it even remotely close? Would you have ordered them differently? Let me know in the comments below. And if this is something you enjoyed, please let me know as well. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I'm interested to know if everyone else would be interested in seeing more of this content as well. I know it deviates pretty significantly from what I've done historically, but like I said, it's a nice break in the action. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and like I said, as always, comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks, and have a good one.